certainly want to express appreciation to my engineering department colleagues directly to say, hey, it's been great working with you. A number of you have been former students. It's been great to have you coming here to take on the leadership and work for the development of it. And it's easy to leave in that respect because it's in very good hands.
You know, perhaps we all have a mind picture of what an engineer is, maybe that technical side, but there's also a human side to engineering, and Nolan knew that, and he exemplified it as a faculty member. I might call him a humanities person that happened to be an engineering professor in terms of understanding our humanness, and that we need to bring that out in terms of our engineering work in caring ways and loving ways. And he's not the only one in the department, but I'd say he exemplified that for our department, which is part of why Dort's engineering program is maybe just a little bit different than many programs.
Nolan was a really compassionate teacher. He cared for every student in his classroom. He went the extra mile to help out the students that couldn't understand the concepts. I really appreciated how he incorporated Dort's worldview and reformational principles in all his teaching, and considered what life as a Dort engineer would be like following graduation. He always considered the role of his Christian faith in education as well as the careers that we would have after we left Dort.
I've really appreciated all of just how he incorporates the importance of being like a professional engineer in all of his classes. So, you know, looking at what you'll actually do in industry, and he really focuses on trying to get people involved in internships and things like that, so getting practical experience.
So he took the time to explain the concepts from the fundamental laws of physics and on up, and that on the, I guess, on the sort of technical side. And then he always had a very, you know, big picture view of what it means to be an engineer, and how, you know, engineering, we really see it as part of our call as Christians.
I think one of the biggest things, and something that he constantly reminded us of, is the importance of like rest, especially Sabbath rest. It feels like every week he reminds us that we need to just take that day off to worship and rest. And yeah, that constant reminder, I think is one of the things that has stuck out to me most.
Nolan is definitely passionate about living for the Lord, and very thoughtful and articulate about what it means to have a Christian, a biblical, a reformational perspective toward engineering and technology.
Professor Van Gaalen is thoughtful and well-read. He always has been. And so the breadth that understanding he has, both in terms of engineering, but also in terms of reformational perspective and how that comes into the classroom, it shows that he's been in the business for so many years and wrestling with key questions for so many years.
Well, as profs, we always hope that they learn the content, of course, and in engineering, that's, as any other field, that's important. But I think I would hope that I've been able to remind them or point them to Christ. I try to have the Colossians 1 theme be center to how I introduce a lot of classes.
It's pretty easy to recognize Nolan's willingness to give of his time.
I don't think I know anyone who has more of a servant heart or a more humble person than Nolan. He just deeply cares about all his students, and you can see that play out in the classroom. And he's always willing to volunteer if someone is out sick or needs a ride or whatever. He's the first guy to step up and say, hey, I can help you.
Actually, I'm here in the engineering department because Professor Van Gaalen convinced me to stay in engineering. He was one that would take time in his office to talk to students who were struggling. And I was like, I'm not here yet in terms of engineering. I think I love it, but I don't know if I can make it. And debating about all these other things I like to study and like to dig into, and thinking about switching to history or theology. And yet he was so gracious in terms of how he sat me down and talked about what I was struggling with. What are the barriers, and what really is at the heart of why you want to shift and switch? And I think it was just his patient way of hearing me out, understanding what I was wrestling with, that sort of brought me back. He said, well, just try another course or two.
I think when I was thinking back, I remembered one specific time when I was working on my senior design project. It was toward the end of the semester, crunch time, and we probably were procrastinating more than we should have, and we're trying to finish our prototype. We're down in the old engineering lab. I think it's a Friday afternoon, we're running out of time, and we really needed to paint the prototype. And he happened to come by, and he just was willing to drop everything, run to Orange City before they close, and get paint from Diamond Vogel, and bring it into the lab so that we could get that done over the weekend. And that really just summed up sort of how I remember him. I mean, he just was willing to just go above and beyond to make a difference for students.
He sees you as an individual going into this field, not just the engineer who's going to be doing this type of work. And I think that's one of the things that I carried with me even into my own teaching, and that I try to reflect in the classes that I do, is trying to have that perspective as well, because I think that's something that's very important to carry through, is to make sure that that foundational knowledge is there, but also to have that care for the person who's taking that class with you.
And yeah, even in class, and even if you run into him in the hall or anything, he seems to genuinely care about like, kind of what's going on. And yeah, even he helped me get my internship this past summer. And so even beyond our time here at Dort, yeah, just investing in the students.
I think Nolan started teaching when I was a sophomore, so I had him actually for quite a few classes, but one of my favorite classes was metallurgy. And it was a senior level class, and the students, he developed this project for us in lab, and we had to take steel samples and heat them up till they were glowing orange, and then we'd plunge them into water, cold water, and there'd be all steam and whatnot, and then he'd end up, over the course of several weeks, we'd mount them in pieces of plastic and sand and polish them. So he would have to do this one-on-one because we didn't have a lot of equipment. So we ended up, yeah, now that I think back to it, I wondered how much time he probably spent with us.
I'd just like to say thanks to Nolan for his work over many decades as he started this small program and grew it to be one of the largest majors on campus. And he's really shown his passion for expanding Christ's kingdom outside of Dort University, and how he's influenced all the students that are leaving here. I think he leaves a legacy behind of hundreds of students that have gone through his classes and had him as an advisor. I also know on a personal level, he's done a lot to help students outside of class, international students and that kind of thing. So I appreciate all that he's done for the institution, and I look forward to still hearing from him outside of Dort after he retires.
Professor Gaalen is the professor that I would want all engineering students to model. If I was to say, who should you become in our department, I would say, become Professor Gaalen. He's the person that just has such a big heart. He's been so gifted with sharing himself with the world in so many ways. And it doesn't just happen in the classroom or in the engineering department. It happens in the city, in the community, in his church. He just naturally overflows